Divine message revealed, this season of struggle ends in 3 days with supernatural deliverance. In the quaint English village of Lynton, where the ancient church stood like an unwavering beacon of faith, a whisper hung over the cobblestone streets, a divine message has been revealed. Many spoke of miracles, tales of the impossible made possible beneath the church's magnificent spire. Yet for Sarah, a devoted single mother, hope seemed as distant as the stars on a cloudy night. She prayed fervently to St. Jude, the patron saint of desperate causes, her heart heavy with financial despair after losing her job. Each evening, she gathered her 2 children, their tiny hands clasped in hers, and bowed their heads in prayer. Please, let there be a miracle. One fateful night, as flickering candles cast dancing shadows on the walls of their cozy living room, a profound stillness enveloped them. Sarah could feel the air thickening, so thick it became alive with faith. And then she heard it, a voice, gentle yet powerful, echoing in the depths of her soul. This season of struggle ends in 3 days with supernatural deliverance. Tears flowed freely, warmth flooded her heart. Surely, this was God's promise. In church the following Sunday, the congregation buzzed with anticipation, but Sarah's declaration was met with mixed reactions. Some raised their eyebrows, doubt chiseling their faces, while others leaned in closer, hope ignited in their eyes. What if it's true? They whispered. Sarah's heart raced. The words felt like a lifeline tossed into the tumultuous sea of her existence, yet she teetered between faith and fear. As the village folk murmured, she felt their judgment biting into her confidence. But she persevered, clutching the prophecy like a humble shield against the tempest. As if to echo her turmoil, a storm brewed violently one evening. Rain lashed against the windows of her little home, and then came the flood water spilling over the kitchen tiles, chaos rising like wild waves. Desperation clawed at her heart, sending her to her knees in fervent prayer. She begged not only for her own relief but for the strength to keep her children's faith intact. Hours passed as she soaked the wooden floors in tears, pleading for a sign. With the deadline looming, uncertainty twisted around her heart. In an act of faith, she reached out to a local charity, a tiny glimmer of hope. What Sarah received was beyond belief. An unexpected torrent of support flooded in, not only for her but for others in Lynton facing their own tribulations. Her heart soared. This wasn't mere charity but a divine orchestration weaving hope and community together in ways she had never imagined. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The atmosphere buzzed with a fresh energy, a divine hope ignited. Who knew that the struggles she endured were stepping stones toward unity? Yet the joy she felt was tinged with tension. Would the community's support flourish before the 3 days were up? As Sarah prepared for what seemed like an impending miracle, doubt stalked her closely, casting its shadow like a specter of uncertainty, but she held on fiercely. Clutching her children tight, she waited, eyes skyward, heart open. Would deliverance come, transforming not just her life but the entire village? The clock ticked ominously as faith hung as delicately as a whisper, ready to burst forth into a glorious song of redemption. As the clock's hands moved relentlessly, each minute felt like an eternity for Sarah. Hope mingled with anxiety, stretching taut in her chest. She tucked her children into bed, whispering words of comfort and promise, while a storm of emotions swirled within her. Tomorrow is a new day, she told them, though doubt gnawed at her heart. The sunset painted the sky in hues of gold and crimson, as if the heavens themselves were about to unveil their secrets. The village seemed to hold its breath, a collective anticipation crackling in the air. Sarah stepped outside, feeling the cool breeze brush against her cheeks, a caress that reminded her of the divine. The church stood tall against the twilight, glowing softly, as if inviting the villagers into the light of faith. That night, sleep eluded her. She tossed and turned, wrestling with fears that whispered of failure and hopelessness. Yet, through it all, a flicker of faith remained, a burning ember refusing to be extinguished. In the quiet of the night, Sarah poured out her heart to God, praying earnestly for strength, assurance, and the courage to believe in the impossible. Morning broke with the soft glow of dawn, waking the village with whispers of promise. The children awoke, their faces bright, sensing an unspoken expectation in the air. They looked to their mother for answers, and despite the tremors in her heart, she smiled. "Today is special, my loves. Today, we wait for a miracle." Throughout the day, Sarah began to notice a ripple of change around Lynton. Neighbors who once greeted each other with mere nods stopped to chat, sharing burdens and hopes. Laughter now mingled with the sound of birds, an orchestra of community spirit that had long been silenced. It was as if the very fabric of their lives was being stitched together by an unseen hand. As night approached, the villagers gathered at the church, their lanterns flickering like stars fallen to earth. Anxiety faded in the warmth of coming together. Sarah felt fortified standing among them, sharing stories of their struggles, their dreams, and the shared burden of waiting for divine intervention. The flickering candles illuminated their faces, but it was the glow of faith in their eyes that truly shone. In this sacred space, Sarah summoned the courage to stand and speak her truth. Her voice trembled at first, but soon found strength. "We are here together, united in our belief that something wonderful is coming. Let us not lose hope." The congregation murmured in agreement, some nodding in solemn resolve, while others clutched their hearts, tears shimmering like diamonds in the candlelight. Just as the sun dipped below the horizon, a low rumble echoed through the night, the sound of thunder, distant yet omnipresent. It sent a thrill through the congregation, stirring a mixture of worry and excitement. "Is it a sign?" someone whispered. "Could it be that the heavens are responding?" With each passing moment, the tension thickened, anticipation electrifying the atmosphere. Sarah's heart raced as she felt the presence of something profound in the air. It was the fullness of potential, the possibility of a miracle just around the corner. But just then, the door of the church creaked open, and in walked an unexpected figure, a stranger, cloaked in shadow. Gasps rippled through the gathered crowd as curiosity and unease danced together in the flickering light. Who could this be? What could they bring? God's plan unfolds in His time, Sarah thought, a prayer rising in her heart. What message might this newcomer hold? What miracles could this revelation bring forth in those final hours? Only time would tell. The stranger stepped into the warm glow of the church, casting a long shadow that appeared to stretch and shiver before the flickering candles. A hush fell over the crowd. All eyes were drawn to the figure, cloaked in mystery yet radiating an undeniable aura of purpose. Sarah held her breath, heart pounding, feeling as though fate itself had entered through the doors of faith. "Do not fear," the stranger spoke, voice smooth yet resonant. "I come not as an enemy, but as a bearer of news." The weight of anticipation pressed heavily on everyone. What could this being possibly say that would sway the hearts of the villagers, who were already hanging on to their hopes by the thinnest of threads? The stranger continued, "In 3 days, you shall witness a transformation. The chains that bind your hearts will be broken." A gentle breeze swept through the church, stirring the candles in a dance of light, reflecting the flicker of hope now igniting within the hearts of those gathered. Sarah felt a rush of warmth wash over her. Could this truly be a sign from above? 3 days sounded like a short time, yet it felt monumental, a promise hovering just out of reach, shimmering like the stars that blanketed the night sky. "What must we do?" someone called out from the rear of the congregation, voice trembling, uncertain yet hopeful. "Hold fast to your faith," the stranger replied, eyes glinting with a knowing light. "Gather together in prayer. Love one another, share your burdens, and let your spirits rise above the weight of your struggles. For it is in unity that miracles find their roots." The words flowed through the room like a soothing balm, calming the fears that had settled in anxious hearts. Sarah's eyes glazed with tears, not of sadness but of overwhelming gratitude. She felt the power of community enliven around her, lifting together as one body, one spirit, ready to face the days ahead. As the stranger stepped farther into the light, Sarah caught a glimpse of their face. It was neither young nor old, it was the visage of every person she had ever known, those who had suffered, thrived, and searched for divine connection. She felt a surge of warmth, almost like a promise that she was not alone in this journey. "Remember," the stranger said, voice rising in intensity. "Your struggles are temporary, but your faith can move mountains." The congregation murmured in a mix of awe and understanding. It was a divine reminder that such moments were not just about waiting for a miraculous occurrence, but actively believing in it. Clenching her fists, Sarah vowed to anchor herself in this truth. She glanced at the faces around her: warmth, conviction, hope. They could feel the electricity in the air, the promise of a coming change stirring within them. It sent shivers through her soul as she thought of the journey that lay ahead. "Let us pray," she whispered, raising her hands slowly as others followed suit, eyes closing in solemn unity. They could almost hear the symphony of hope beginning to play, the gentle rumble of change awaiting their command. As the room echoed with prayers, the clouds outside began to reflect hues of orange and gold, ushering in a new beginning. But what truly lay just beyond those 3 days? What twist of fate awaited the village of Lynton? As the final word of prayer faded into the night, the air seemed charged with an unfathomable mystery, leaving each soul to ponder what divine plan was in store. The morning sun crept cautiously over Lynton, casting gentle light on dew-tipped grass and awakening a new day. Sarah stepped out of her small home, feeling the warmth expand in her chest like a blooming flower. It was the day of promise. 3 days had passed since the stranger's revelation, and an expectant tension hummed through the village like a live wire. As she walked through the cobblestone streets, Sarah couldn't help but notice the faces of her neighbors lit with a renewed sense of purpose. The baker waved, his hands still dusted with flour but his smile brighter than the morning sun. "Today is the day, isn't it?" he called out, the certainty in his voice twinkling like a melody in the air. "Yes," Sarah replied, her heart fluttering at the shared hope. The villagers, once weighed down by despair, now wore expressions of faith, each person echoing the stranger's call to prayer and togetherness. Gathering at the church felt electric. The congregation flowed into the wooden pews, each soul reflecting on the promise made 3 days prior. A hush fell again, but this time it echoed with anticipation and belief. The flickering candles seemed to dance more eagerly now, as if they too sensed the impending change. "Let us begin," Sarah called, feeling a spirit of leadership awaken within her. The prayer felt different this day. It was less a supplication and more a declaration of hope, an affirmation that they were ready to receive the miracle promised. As voices lifted in harmonized prayer, Sarah caught glimpses of her neighbors: Martha, who had lost her son, Thomas, whose fields had withered, and young Lucy, dreaming of a life beyond the constraints of poverty. Each face was a story of struggle, but together they painted a canvas of unyielding belief. Then, a shift occurred. The doors of the church swung open, pulling a breath of fresh air through the room. The stranger from 3 days prior stood at the entrance, glowing in the sunlight, their presence stirring an awe that enveloped the congregation. "Today," they called, voice like thunder wrapped in gentle warmth. "Today is the turning point. Your faith has summoned change. Look around you. Embrace one another. Miracles await." The congregation buzzed with excitement, but Sarah felt an undeniable pull. She stepped forward, her heart racing with questions she needed answers to. What should we do? Where will this change begin? With eyes that sparkled like stars, the stranger responded, "Change begins with open hearts and loving hands. Reach out to those in need. Lift each other up. Together, you will see God's hand at work." An overwhelming wave of energy vibrated through the room. Sarah turned to Martha, enveloping her in a tight embrace. "We are here for you," she whispered, her spirit swelling with compassion. Around her, hands clasped in solidarity, voices joined in an anthem of support. The church felt alive with the pulse of kindred spirits engaging in heartfelt connections. Perhaps the miracle was not a grandiose event but a journey activated by love. But as hope surged through the air, deep questions lurked in Sarah's mind. What if the change wasn't what they had envisioned? What if their greatest struggle was yet to come? The sun began to set, painting the sky with fiery oranges and deep purples, a canvas reminding everyone of the beauty within transformation. Sarah's pulse quickened as uncertainty mixed with excitement. What awaited them as they stepped farther into this promise? As the congregation poured their fears and dreams into prayers, the air thickened with divine anticipation. Yet, beneath all of that hope, a lingering question hung in the air: would they truly be ready for what was to come? In that profound moment, they all sensed a truth. Change was on the horizon, but what shape would it take, and how would it unfold for those gathered in faith? The night cloaked Lynton in a hushed reverence, whispering secrets of the day ahead. As the stars flickered above, the congregation slowly began to disperse, yet the air vibrated with something palpable, a recognition that tomorrow would be different. Sarah hung back, lingering in the doorway of the church. She watched as her neighbors embraced each other, their tears blending with laughter of hope. The conversations bubbled with excitement but also flickered with uncertainty. What if it was unspoken, yet echoed through their eyes? The stranger's words had ignited flames of faith, but had they truly grasped the weight of what that faith required? "Martha," Sarah called, her heart leading her feet back toward her friend. "What do you feel? Are you truly ready?" Martha turned toward her, her gaze deep and wise despite her heartbreak. "I want to believe," she replied, "but my heart still aches." A tear traced its way down her cheek. "Can faith fill the void? Together we can create change. Together we can heal," Sarah whispered, the warmth of her own conviction spreading. It was a tender moment, a fragile bond of trust woven within shared pain. That night, sleep drifted in and out, laced with visions of possibility. As Sarah closed her eyes, she felt a divine whisper hush the chaos within her. "Be prepared," it said gently, "for love's labor requires courage." Morning greeted them sooner than expected. The sun stretched its arms wide, spilling golden light into every crevice of Lynton, as if the heavens themselves were heralding the dawn of transformation. People flooded out of their homes, drawn by the hum of something beyond themselves. Drawing together at the church once more, the atmosphere shimmered with expectancy. It felt as if they were standing on the edge of a great precipice, ready to leap into the unknown. Sarah, filled with a quiet resolve, stood before her neighbors, ready to lead them in prayer once again. "Let us give thanks," she began, her voice a steady beacon guiding them in unison. "For we are here, together, bound in this moment of faith." As one, they raised their voices to the heavens, a chorus of belief resonating with the foundations of the earth. But just as hope soared, the stranger appeared again, illuminated by the radiance of heaven's light, walking with purpose as if they owned the very ground beneath their feet. "The time has come," they called, the firmness of their tone echoing in every heart. "Miracles do not just happen, they invite us into action. Who among you is ready to step forward?" A silence fell, thick with anticipation. The congregation held its collective breath, thinking of their struggles. One by one, they began to step forward, each person placing a stone symbol of burden at the altar. Each thud against the wooden surface felt like a confession, a letting go of heavy hopes and expectations. "There is strength in vulnerability," the stranger proclaimed, and the words enveloped the hall. "Rejoice. The path is forged by those willing to take the first step together." But as her neighbors poured their burdens into the altar, Sarah felt a pang of fear clutch her heart. She glanced at the altar, wondering if they were truly prepared. Would these stones of anguish become stepping stones to freedom, or mere reminders of pain? Yet faith nudged her forward, whispering of God's plans tucked within mystery. "Let us forge ahead," she cried out, emboldened by the collective resolve. As the congregation united in hopeful supplication, a palpable shift filled the atmosphere, as if the very air thickened with divine possibility. Together they joined hands, creating a circle of support and strength. What was the nature of the miracle on the horizon? And would the sacrifice of their burdens grant them the release they so desperately sought? Tomorrow, there would be answers. But would the congregation be ready for the depth of those revelations? Would they dare to embrace the fullness of transformation that lay ahead? A soft breeze brushed through the open church doors, carrying whispers of the Spirit as the congregation remained in their sacred circle. The sunlight seemed to dance in response to their prayer, a golden aura enveloping them, inviting their hopes and fears to rise like incense. Are we truly ready? Sarah thought, her heart balancing between anticipation and doubt. She glanced at Martha, whose eyes glimmered with a mixture of longing and trepidation. The weight of their stones felt heavier now, each a story, a loss, a yearning for something greater. The stranger who had stirred their hearts cleared their throat, capturing the attention of the gathered souls once more. Your burdens are not for you to bear alone, they spoke, voice resonating with warmth, yet firm. In this moment, you are part of a body that functions better in unity. Do you not feel it? The presence of something greater. Nods and murmurs rippled through the crowd. A younger man named Thomas spoke up, his voice quivering yet filled with passion. What do we do when the weight is so much that we can hardly move? Ah, young one, the stranger replied, eyes reflecting wisdom. You are in the right place, with the right people. Release your fear. Trust. You are called to recognize the miracle not just as a distant promise, but as a journey of stepping into each other's lives. Sarah caught her breath, sensing the tremors of divine revelation beneath the stranger's words. It wasn't merely about individual healing, it was about community, about weaving strength from their intimate stories of struggle. With every stone you release, let your hearts open, allowing grace to flow, the stranger urged. Now, who among you is willing to share the truth of their burden with the community? A ripple of hesitation swept through the group. Yet a gentle prompting from the Spirit urged them forward. Someone stepped out, a woman named Agnes, her hands trembling but her resolve steely. I've lost my husband to illness, she began, her voice wavering. And I can't shake the feeling that God is punishing me for something. Tears met her words, glimmering like pearls of laments. Agnes, you are not alone. Sarah stepped forward, heart pounding, as she wrapped her arms around her friend. We all have burdens that make us question our faith. Let us carry yours together. The congregation murmured in agreement, slowly forming a protective barrier around Agnes, their hearts entwined in compassion. One by one, they began to share, stories tumbling out, each narrative turning painful stones into a foundation of support. Laughter and tears melded, forming a symphony of hope that resonated within the walls of Lynton Church. Sarah stood awash with joy, recognizing the truth that God invites them to share their struggles not in isolation, but in unified love. The stranger announced, "Feel the shift. This is just the beginning. Your shared burdens will become burdens lifted, and the stones will pave the path to resurrection in your lives." In that instant, the air shimmered again, profound glory cascading over the congregation, a divine promise slowly unfolding. Tomorrow is but a heartbeat away, Sarah murmured to herself, feeling the anticipation electrify the room. Tomorrow will be one step closer to our miracle. As the gathering began to disperse, Sarah caught a glimpse of the stranger smiling knowingly, their eyes filled with wisdom that transcended time and space. What else is unfolding? She wondered, her heart racing with both excitement and trepidation. What does God still have in store for us? The wonder of what could come next danced in the air, rich with expectation and divine mystery. Little did they know, the depths of their revelations were merely waiting for the sunrise to fully illuminate them. The following day, the sun's first rays broke through the veil of dawn, casting soft light upon the sleepy village of Lynton. Inside the church, a lingering warmth wrapped around the gathered souls. Today felt different, filled with a tension that crackled like electricity in the air. Sarah's heart raced as she arrived earlier than usual, drawn by the promise of that elusively gentle revelation. She could still feel the weight of Agnes's sorrow, yet the flame of hope flickered brighter within her. God promised us something new, she whispered as she arranged the humble altar. As the congregation flowed in, the atmosphere thickened with anticipation. Thomas was among the first to arrive, his brow furrowed in thought. What do you think will happen today? he asked Sarah, his voice tinged with both excitement and anxiety. I can't say, she replied, but I feel God is stirring something powerful in our midst. We have to be open to what he longs to reveal. Martha joined them, her face radiant yet apprehensive. My heart tells me our prayers are about to take flight. We should prepare ourselves for the unexpected. The stranger, who now felt less like an outsider and more like a beloved guide, entered with a serene presence. The energy shifted again, as if the very air rejoiced at their arrival. Beloved family, today is a day of unfolding, they proclaimed, voice echoing with a depth that sent tingles down Sarah's spine. You stand at the threshold of a sacred moment. Do you feel the weight of what lies ahead? A collective breath filled the space, each soul caught in a blend of trust and curiosity. The stranger continued, you have stepped into the light, allowing the dark shadows of fear to be replaced with courage. Are you prepared to embrace the miracle that awaits? Sarah took a step forward, bolstered by an inexplicable courage. Yes. We are here, waiting and hoping, ready to embrace whatever God has for us. The stranger nodded, their gaze gleaming with understanding. Remember, your burdens are transformed when they are shared. Today, we will lay before God all our stones, and in return, he will show us the path to renewal. A plethora of stories emerged, brokenness mingling with healing at the altar. Each narrative resonated off the walls, creating a symphony of vulnerability and faith. There were whispers of past mistakes, moments of despair, and the heavy chains of addiction. Every word flowed like a river under the Spirit's guiding hand. As they leaned into the stories, a soft warmth enveloped the room, becoming palpable. Sarah could see faces shift, fear turning into peace, burdens growing lighter, love cascading like a waterfall. The collective heart of the congregation beat synchronously, a profound intercession lifting to the heavens. 3 days, the stranger murmured, their voice barely above a whisper yet ringing true. 3 days for a supernatural deliverance. Trust in my words and watch. A sense of divine urgency filled the air. A woman near the altar gasped, tears streaming down her cheeks as she felt the power of liberation wash over her. I can feel it. Something is breaking. She cried, her voice a melody of joy and awe. Indeed. The stranger affirmed, rousing the assembly from their introspection. What is birthed in the spirit shall manifest in the physical. Hold fast to this unity, your miracle is weaving itself into existence even now. The room buzzed with energy, anticipation palpable in every breath drawn. Will our faith be enough? Sarah silently pondered, as the magnitude of what might come settled in her heart. As the gathering moved toward closing, the stranger offered one last glance, a knowing twinkle brightening their eyes. What patterns of resurrection might unfold in your lives, when you least expect it? The question hung in the air like a promise still waiting to be fulfilled. What divine mystery awaited just beyond the horizon? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden glow over Lynton, the congregation dispersed, hearts knitted in a tapestry of hope. The sense of something sacred lingered in the air, wrapping itself around every soul as they exited the church. Sarah walked slowly, her mind awash with the stranger's words. 3 days. What did that truly mean? She found herself at the edge of the village green, sitting on a bench where the daisies swayed gently in the breeze. The world felt transformed, as if the very essence of creation was aligning with their prayers. She closed her eyes, breathing deeply. Each inhalation filled her with promise, each exhalation released the weight of her concerns. God, guide us, she whispered, the quiet of her plea surrendering her uncertainties. Meanwhile, Thomas had lingered behind, sharing murmurs of enthusiasm with those who would listen. Can you imagine what God has in store for us? It feels monumental. His excitement was contagious, a spark igniting the hearts around him. Martha, leaning against the church wall, smiled widely. We must keep sharing our burdens, just as the stranger said. Each story we tell strengthens the fabric of our community. But beneath her hopeful exterior lay a stirring of doubt. What if their faith was not enough? What if the promised miracle didn't come to fruition? She pushed the thoughts aside, choosing instead to embrace the unity among them. As dusk settled over Lynton, the church bells chimed softly, echoing through the village. They welcomed the coming night, yet for the church, it marked the beginning of a new chapter. The whisper of transformation intertwined with shadows as Sarah and her friends gathered again, this time in each other's homes, ready to lift one another in prayer. "Let us meet again tomorrow," Sarah suggested, her voice steady. "We can share our stories, our weaknesses, and we can pray together, bring those burdens before God." Martha nodded eagerly while Thomas expressed his thoughts. "Bringing our fears before God is essential." The stranger asked about unity, and I believe that's our strength. The night deepened, but the warmth of fellowship lit their hearts. They prayed, spoke aloud their dreams, and even acknowledged their doubts. The sound of their voices weaving together was like a rich tapestry, every word infused with intention, awakening a sweet fragrance of faith. Morning arrived with light filtering through curtains, dancing upon awakening eyes. Busy streets filled with life and laughter, while in homes mixed with inseparable threads of anxiety and anticipation, hearts raced at the thought of what God might do in those 3 days. As heartbreak began to heal and courage rose within them, Sarah felt a stirring in her spirit. She did not know what was next, but she was determined to bear witness. Heads bowed in reverence, the call to devote themselves to prayer filled their hearts. On the second evening, they gathered again, sharing testimonies of small miracles: a beggar blessed with kind words, a child experiencing joy amidst struggles, a lost friendship found anew. Each account knit them closer together, strengthening their faith and igniting a deeper understanding of the divine mystery unfolding among them. "We are not alone in this journey," Martha reminded everyone with a soft smile. "Every step taken together brings us closer to what God has in store." But as the hours turned to dusk and the sun began to set, a heaviness settled over Sarah. A quiet worry brushed against her heart like an unexpected chill. What if the supernatural deliverance they awaited required more than their unity? Would God's timing coincide with their own? As they closed their meeting in prayer, a gentle whisper in the quiet seemed to stretch out, resonating deep within Sarah's soul: "Faith is the bridge to the miraculous." When they finally circled for a final prayer, a deep sense of expectancy gripped the room. Each heart ached with eagerness, longing to witness the unfolding divine adventure. As the stars emerged overhead, the night lifted its veil of mystery, leaving Sarah to ponder what waited in the final moments of their 3-day promise. Would their hearts be prepared for the answer? What divine interventions could await in the unfolding hours? The morning of the third day dawned with a sense of anticipation that hung thick in the air. Sunlight poured through the windows, illuminating corners of Sarah's home where shadow had once dwelt. As she poured herself her morning tea, the warmth seeped into her hands, bringing comfort and a gentle reminder of God's presence in each ordinary moment. Her gaze drifted outside, watching children chase each other, their laughter ringing like a joyous hymn in her ears. Yet, a disquiet fluttered in her belly. Time was slipping through her fingers, and she couldn't shake the feeling that what was to come was not just for herself but for the entire village. Meanwhile, in the quiet of the church, Thomas and Martha busied themselves preparing for the evening gathering. Each moment felt like a thread weaving together the fabric of their hope. Thomas stacked chairs with care, casting glances toward the door as if expecting a revelation to burst through at any moment. "Do you feel it?" he murmured to Martha, a spark in his eye. "Something is different this morning. It's palpable." Martha paused, a smile touching her lips. "Yes, it's like the air is electric, charged with promise. We just have to hold on a little longer." As the day passed, whispers of excitement coursed through the village. People spoke of miracles, some shared stories of heartfelt prayers answered in tiny ways. Others, hesitant yet hopeful, clung to the promise Sarah and her friends had championed. With evening approaching, the church was filled with faces both familiar and new. There was an unspoken understanding that this gathering was more than just ordinary prayer, it was a crossroads of faith. Sarah looked around, her heart swelling at the sight of her community united under the weight of shared expectation. Tonight feels like eternity, Martha remarked softly, her eyes gleaming like stars. We have to trust that God is going to do something incredible. Thomas nodded, warmth spreading inside him as he took center stage. Let us open our hearts to the impossible. Tonight, we celebrate all that He is, and we let our faith collide with His promises. With that, a hush fell among them. They bowed their heads, joined in a collective consciousness, pouring out their worries, dreams, and fears into the waiting hands of the divine. Each prayer softly fluttered upwards, echoing in the rafters, a fragrant offering of devotion and longing, but amidst the prayers, uncertainty lingered like a shadow. Sarah's heart beat heavily as she delved deeper into her thoughts. Would they truly see the miracles they yearned for? Was their faith really strong enough to manifest the promise of the stranger's words? And then, as if to answer her thoughts, a gentle wind swept through the church, stirring the candles flickering in the corners. Did others feel it too? A sense of something stirring, a movement within their spirits? The atmosphere thickened with divine expectancy. Martha caught Sarah's eye, and something unspoken passed between them, a shared sense of the nearing revelation. As they settled into a powerful moment of worship, the air shimmered with unyielding faith. Each note sung felt like a heartbeat, a reminder of the miraculous just on the horizon. Could it be that God was already working, knitting their lives into a beautiful tapestry of grace? The answer loomed, but what form would it take? Tonight held the weight of their prayers, and Sarah could only wait, heart open and eager what would unfold in the coming moments. Would they be ready to receive the abundant blessing He had promised? As the clock struck the hour, a stillness enveloped Lynton, mingling with a sense of sacred anticipation. Sarah stood at the front of the church, her heart racing. The faces of her friends and neighbors mirrored her own emotions, all lit with a flickering hope for miraculous change. Together, they had shared their burdens, woven their dreams, and opened themselves to the power of divine connection. Tonight is unlike any other, Sarah began, her voice steady yet filled with emotion. We stand not just as individuals, but as a community bound by faith. Together, we welcome all that God has in store for us. As she spoke, the stranger who had visited them days ago appeared once more at the entrance, their presence radiant and commanding. A hush fell across the room, eyes drawn to the mysterious figure who seemed to pulse with purpose. Beloved, the stranger proclaimed, the moment has come. God's grace flows through you, igniting hope and healing. You are ready to witness the manifestation of His promise. As if answering their prayer, a gentle breeze wound through the church, carrying an unmistakable warmth that enveloped each heart. Sarah closed her eyes, surrendering to the sensation, feeling the weight of divine presence reshape her spirit, erasing years of doubt and fear. You have shared your burdens, now prepare to receive. The stranger declared, their voice echoing with authority. Gather in a circle, hands intertwined, hearts open. Release all that weighs you down and embrace the strength of unity. With an urgency that fueled her strength, Sarah led her neighbors into a circle, their hands clasping tightly, each connection pulsating with love and solidarity. They formed a living testament to the miracle they had awaited, a radiant tapestry woven with faith. Let us pray together, Sarah called, her voice imbued with power. As we stand here, let every worry, every pain, and every fear be lifted and transformed. The congregation bowed their heads, pouring forth their supplications into the atmosphere. Each prayer was a flurry of hope, a collective symphony rising into the heavens, pleading for supernatural intervention. Inside Sarah, anticipation swelled. Could this truly be the moment of divine deliverance they had longed for? A soft rumble resonated outside, almost like the heartbeat of creation itself responding to their call. See! The Spirit of God is moving. The stranger exclaimed, voice reverberating with joy. Rejoice! For what is coming is beyond your imaginings. Suddenly, a bright light enveloped the church, illuminating the room with golden hues, as if the very heavens had opened. Gasps erupted, eyes widening in awe as the light expanded, wrapping around them like an embrace of comfort and resolve. In that moment, Sarah felt a profound shift within her being. The struggles that had once anchored her heart began to dissolve, replaced by an inexpressible peace. Tears streamed down her cheeks, a release, a validation that she was not alone, and the promise of transformation was upon them. As the congregation basked in the heavenly glow, laughter arose, mingling with songs of gratitude and praise. A palpable energy surged among them, binding them closer together, each testimony igniting the flame of faith among the others. "Martha, look!" a voice exclaimed, drawing attention to the corner of the church. An elderly woman, once frail and weary, stepped forward, her face brimming with life. "I feel it, my heart, it's lighter. The burden has lifted." With joyous cries erupting around her, more testimonies followed, healing manifested in visible love and transformation. Expectations shattered as the community delighted in the divine orchestration unfolding before them. "Glory be to God!" shouted Thomas, raising his arms. "Tonight, we are reborn." Sarah clutched her heart, overwhelmed with gratitude. This was the miracle they had cried out for: hearts renewed, spirits lifted, burdens released. They had been swept into a divine current, weaving their lives back to God's embrace. As the evening continued, prayers morphed into shouts of joy. Intertwined with laughter, each neighbor enveloping the next in warm hugs. The stranger watched with steady eyes, beaming with encouragement. "Your faith has summoned miracles, dear Lynton. What was once shadow is now light. Remain open, for your journey does not end here." As the clock struck midnight, signaling a beautiful new dawn, Sarah stood amidst her neighbors, no longer weighed down but buoyed by faith. Chains had fallen, and the quiet beauty of utter transformation painted the atmosphere with an ethereal brush. "Tonight, we rise together," Sarah exclaimed, voice echoing into the soft night. "And as we cherish our journey, let us carry this light into the world. Our faith will continue to manifest beyond these walls." Indeed, the stranger nodded, for the true miracle lies not just in the moment but in the community you nurture, the love you give, and the faith you carry forward. In that moment, each heart intertwined, firm in the conviction that they had witnessed a divine revelation, the embrace of God's love, and their own rebirth into hope. As they rejoiced together, Sarah felt the warmth of connectedness fill her, reminding her that they had all stood on the brink of despair, only to step boldly into the light of faith. This was just the beginning. Now, if you felt the power of this story resonate with you, don't wait another second. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you won't miss the next exclusive faith stories that uplift spirits. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm and spread this message of hope. Comment your reactions and testimonies about this beautiful ending. And share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation. Only true servants of God understand how vital it is to support our community through these actions. Your faith can spark a miracle today.